do you want to start off by telling people what Star Trek Continues is
Absolutely.
and how absolutely amazing it is?
Well, I don't know that I'm in a position to say the second part. That's up to each person to decide for themselves. But what I can tell you is that ever since I was a very little boy, I loved the original series of Star Trek. When I was about 9 years old, I discovered it and I fell in love with it. Captain Kirk kind of became a father figure to me. My dad wasn't around. And I would make my own uniforms and I would build my own little sets out of cardboard and Christmas lights and round the kids in the neighborhood up to play Star Trek with me and shoot little 8mm movies. I would hang models in front of black fabric and run past them with the camera to make it look like the Enterprise was flying by. Fast forward 40 years, literally, and I found out that there were people out there that were making fan-driven Star Trek productions. And I was even invited to play a role in one. I was invited to direct one. And it kind of rekindled my fire for that show. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if somebody finished the 5-year mission? Anybody that knows the original series knows that Captain Kirk used to say at the beginning of every episode, these are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's 5-year mission. Well, they were canceled in their 3rd season of television. And so they never had that 5-year mission. And then the next time you saw those characters, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, the Enterprise, was 10 years later in Star Trek the Motion Picture. So my thought was, why don't we rent a building, rebuild the sets as spot on within inches of accuracy to the original soundstage as we possibly can. And then I'll bring a bunch of people together, actors, lighting people, camera people, sound people, makeup people, wardrobe people, prop people, and bring these people together. And let's make an episode of Star Trek. And let's make one as good as I can make it. And my college degree was film. So I have a lot of experience in filmmaking and all of the elements of filmmaking. So we all came together. We shot one episode, not knowing whether or not anybody would like it, because, you know, sometimes fans of any particular show or television series can be very critical and hard to please, if you know what I mean. So I didn't know how it was going to be received, but we made Pilgrim of Eternity, which was our first episode, and it was a sequel to an original series episode about the Greek god Apollo. And we even got the original actor who played Apollo 60 years earlier to reprise his role. We released it. I'm very humbled to say that it was received very well. Myself and a friend of mine funded the entire building of the sets and the first episode. That meant flying everybody down, getting them hotel rooms, feeding them every day, all of that, equipment rental, everything. But after we finished the first episode, we now had a proof of concept, if you will. We had an actual physical episode that we could say, if you like this, this is what we can do. I couldn't keep funding them. I didn't feel morally right about asking people, like launching a Kickstarter and asking people to give me money for something that they had no idea whether I could do or not. I just didn't have a good feeling about that. So I thought, you know, this is a perfect example of putting your money where your mouth is. If you believe in this, put your money into it yourself. So that's what I did. After that first episode was well received, though, we launched a Kickstarter, or as we like to call it, Kirkstarter. And we raised enough money to make episodes 2, 3, and 4. Then we launched another one and raised enough to make 5, 6, and 7. And then we launched one more crowdfunding campaign to make 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we created, in total, 11 full-length, live-action, full cast, full crew, effects, music, all of it. We have well over 17 million viewers now, and it picks up where the original series was canceled. It returns the Enterprise to Earth, finishes the 5-year mission, and leaves everybody right where they were when the motion picture begins.
We talked about that on Table Talk with Doug. I sent him, he watched Star Trek Continues because of that. He said he hadn't seen it yet. And I said, but no, he bridges it perfectly, the series and the first movie, even the uniform changeover. And
yes,
he's like, oh my God, I go see that. So,
and you know, when the motion picture came out, Spock was back on Vulcan, pursuing this culinar discipline. Kirk had become an admiral. Dr. McCoy had left the service altogether. So in my mind, I was thinking, wouldn't it be a great story? Wouldn't it be a great story to dive into why everyone is where they are when the motion picture comes out? And so it was a lot of fun to craft stories and storylines and character arcs to explain why Spock decided to go back to Vulcan, why Dr. McCoy left the service, why would Captain Kirk ever accept promotion? I mean, anybody that ever watched the original series knows that the only thing Kirk loved more than women was his ship. And you would have thought that he would have had to have been dragged kicking and screaming off the bridge of his ship. So what, I mean, there's a good story there. You know what I mean? What would have been the reason that he would have decided to do that? So that's what we did with Star Trek Continues. We picked it up immediately where it was canceled and finished the 5-year mission.